So, before we start our lesson for today, let us pray. So, Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here ever this day, be at my side, to light and guard, thrill and guide. Amen. And so, good morning everyone.
Good morning, teacher.
Good morning. So, before we start our lesson, let's take a review first. So, based on our last topic or last discussion, we discussed about the different public storm signals. So, we have 5 public storm signals. So, the public storm warning signal number 1 is 36 hours with lead time with 30 to 60 winds km per hour with no damage to very light damage. So, our second public storm warning signal, we have number 2, which is 24 hours with 61 to 120 winds kilometer per hour with light to moderate damage. So, our public storm warning signal number 3, which is on 18 hours, is 121 to 120 kilometers per hour with moderate to heavy damage. So, our public storm warning signal number 4, we have 12 hours, which is 111 to 220 kilometers per hour with heavy to very heavy damage. And lastly, our public storm warning signal number 5, which is the 12 hours, is more than 220 kilometers per hour with very heavy to widespread damage. So, what are the effects of typhoon to the living things and the environment?
Pwede magubang mga balay ug kanang magbaha.
Very good. So, as start of our lesson, we have the phases of the moon. So this is our new topic for this day, which is the phases of the moon. So what are the objectives in our lesson? So we have 4 objectives, which is number 1, observe the moon appearance as well as the changes in its appearance. Second, can be able to know the definition of each phases. Third, the learners would be able to illustrate the phases of the moon. And lastly, the learners can answer and perform the activities given by the teacher. So, how many moons does the earth has? So, how many moons does the earth has? So, we have the 8 phases of the moon, which is can be seen in our board. So, okay. So, as we seen in the picture, we have the moon surface. So, as we can see, we have the phases of the moon. So, we have the 8 phases, which is first, full moon, second, waning gibbous, third, last quarter, fourth, waning crescent, fifth, new moon, sixth, waxing crescent, seventh, first quarter, and lastly, waxing gibbous. And that would be the moon phases of the earth.
Look at this, Kitty. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Moon is right here, little Kitty. It's just that we can't see it. Hey, friend. I know, just like little Kitty, you must be curious to solve the mystery behind our moon's superpowers. So, in today's episode, let me take you through the different phases of the moon and shed some light on the reasons behind it. Zoom in! Hey friends, every time you look up in the sky at night, you see the silver moon shining bright, illuminating the earth from its light. Not only that, but the moon also seems to have magical powers to change its shape and can willingly appear and disappear. But the matter of fact is, like any magic trick, this is an illusion as well. Yes, my dear friends, you will be surprised to know that the moon doesn't emit the light itself. And the moonlight we see is actually the sun's light reflected off the lunar surface. Yes, this sunlight is also responsible for the moon's transformation from the new moon to the full moon and back again. Under the process we call the lunar cycle or the phases of the moon. But the vital question is, how does it happen? So, let us have a good look at it. You see, as we know, the moon revolves around the earth at a fixed orbit and does not have its own light. So, when the moon is exactly in the middle of the earth and the sun, it becomes nearly invisible in the night sky as the side facing the earth does not get the sunlight. This invisible phase of the moon is called the new moon. But as the moon continues to orbit and moves a little ahead in the waxing phase, after 2 or 3 days, some light from the sun starts to fall on some of its path, which makes the moon appear in a crescent shape in the phase called the waxing crescent. And as the moon continues its orbital journey, the sun's reflection keeps on increasing on the moon's surface. And in about a week, when the sun is in a 90-degree position to the moon, we could see its half-lit portion. This phase is called the first quarter. Next, in about 2 or 3 days after the first quarter, the moon is more than half full and still increasing its illuminated surface in a phase we called waxing gibbous. And in about 2 weeks after the new moon or the invisible moon, it reaches behind Earth with respect to the sun, and the full side of the moon facing the Earth gets the sunlight, due to which finally we can see the full moon. But it doesn't end there, my friends, as now comes the waning stage, where the moon starts its return journey from full moon to the invisible new moon as the light begins to decrease on its surface and it enters the waning gibbous phase. After this occurs the last quarter phase, during which the moon is once again half illuminated, but the lit area that's visible is on the decline. This is followed by the waning crescent phase, in which the moon shrinks back to a crescent that's less than half full. And finally, the moon finishes its journey in about 29.5 days and comes back between the Earth and Sun to its new moon phase, marking the completion of the lunar cycle, just to start over again. Trivia time! Did you know when the moon appears to be getting bigger, it's called waxing? And when it looks like it's getting smaller, it's called waning. Also, the word gibbous comes from the Latin for hump and has been used for centuries to describe rounded or convex shapes like swollen eyes or the back of a camel. Hope you learned something.
For today's lesson, let us discuss the changes in its appearance of the moon, or also known as the appearance of the moon. So, the moon is also known as the satellite of the Earth that rotates on its own axis and revolves around the Earth. It has no light of the own and gets its light from the sun. So, meaning, ang atoang Earth kay wala siya own light, but nagkuha ang light sa atoang moon is from behind the sun. So, di ba ang light sa sun kay kanang mo reflect man na siya sa Earth. So, ang atoang Earth kinaaman siya yung moon. So, kada rotate sa Earth, mag-rotate pud ang moon, mukuha pud siya og kanang source niya sunlight which is gikan sa sun. So, we have 3 questions. So, number 1, why does the moon change its appearance from time to time? So, this explained that it because the moon is illuminated position the moon changes as it moves around the earth. So, as I've said, mag-move ang earth, mag-move pud ang moon, dayon ang sun dayon nga nag-steady ra siya or standby ra siya, mag-distribute ra siya of light together sa earth o together pud sa moon. So, second question, does the moon change its shape? So, the image of the moon and does not work the same as the whole month. So, as we can see, every month, gaka-change ang position or gaka-change ang shape sa moon. So, naay inani nga shape, naay inani pud nga shape, napoy ka ng grabe kahayag, which is ang full moon. So, sometimes we see it as the moon as crescent. So, this is the example of crescent moon. So, crescent moon is the first quarter and the last quarter. So, third question, why does it happen? Because the moon is between the appearance of the quarter moon and the new moon. That's why the crescent moon appears. So, kay tungod kay naamay full moon and the new moon, mo-appear dayon ang crescent moon or ang first quarter o ang last quarter kay between man siya sa kanang new moon o sa full moon. So as we go along our topic, I have some flashcards here. So here is some my flashcards. So what is the first phase of the moon? So as we can see, we have the new moon. So we have the new moon, which is during this phase, the moon is between the earth and the sun, and which means one of the lunar half we see is illuminated and the moon becomes nearly invisible in the sky. So, it's understandable kay new moon man siya. So, wala gid siya makuha nga sunlight pag gikan sa sun kay kanang first phase man siya sa moon. So, wala siya makuha nga shadow or kanang illuminated part sa sun kay kanang first stage pa man siya sa moon, so wala pa man siya nag-rotate sa Earth's axis. So, the second phase, which is the waxing crescent. So, as the moon illuminated surface increases, it's in a stage known as waxing and its crescent as long as it's less than half full. So, as the second stage, we have the waxing crescent, which is the second stage kay inani na dayon ang mahitabo. So inani ang mahitabo sa waxing crescent. So we have the lit surface, which is the illuminated from the sun. Kaya nagatubang naman siya sa earth. So gatuyok man na siya paana. So ang itsura dayon sa moon kay inani na dayon, while ang new moon kay wala pa man siya sunlight na makuha sa sun, so wala pa siya mga hatag nga yellow or kanang na siya kanang illustration na siya nga naghatag siya og light sa earth. So the third stage or the third phase is the first quarter, which is kani siya. So this is the first quarter. This is the phase when half of the moon is illuminated and the percentage of the lit surface is still increasing. So, kay half, paano man siya ba? Kanang sa first quarter, kay nag-around man siya sa earth, nag-rotate man siya sa earth. So, gakaana po, kadako po ang makuha niya nga sunlight nga gikan po sa sun. So, in the fourth phase, which is the waxing gibbous. So, when the moon is more than half full and still increasing its illuminated surface. So, half full na siya. So, inani na din ang niyang itsura dayon. Moni ang shadow nga wala na kuha niya nga sunlight gikan sa sun, and then mo din niyang nakuha na dayon nga sunlight nga gikan sa sun. And then, last dayon, in the almost of the last kay full moon, which is in this phase, The moon is behind the earth with respect to the sun and its face is fully illuminated. This is we can sometimes see lunar eclipse. So, sa mabantayan nato ang full moon, grabe gid siya kahayag. Kay nganong grabe siya kahayag? Kay aside nga nag-atubang siya sa earth, nag-atubang pag nag-angyag yung full capacity gid sa moon, kay nag-atubang gid siya sa kanang sun. That's why nakuha gid niya tanan niya sunlight gikan sa sun. So, in the sixth stage or in the sixth phase, we have the waning gibbous or waning gibbous. So, in this stage, when the moon is more than half lit out illuminated surface, we can see decreasing. So, as we can see, ang yahang ang yahang lit niya nga part, kay dito na siya nagatubang sa pa-left, while ang kanida yung waxing crescent, kay pa-right ang yahang atubang niya sa sun. So, opposite sila, ang waxing crescent kay pa-right, dayon ang waning crescent kay pa-left. So, muna na siya, ang hayag niya, kay dito na din niya hayag dayon pa-left, kay nag-rotate naman siya sa earth. So, kanang ang yaha dayong kanang sunlight na makuha sa sun, kay pa-left pod, kay tungod sa iyang rotation pod nga kaka-affect pod ang kanang sunlight or ang kanang lit surface nga na-illuminate sa moon. So, in the next stage, we have the last quarter. So, during this phase, the moon is once again half illuminated. Half illuminated siya, so half ra ang iyahang kwan, kinakatubang naman siya pa left sa sun. So, half ra ang ma-occupy or ang capacity sa sun nga makuha sa moon nga kanang light niya. So, during this phase, the moon is once again half illuminated but lit area that's visible in one decline. So, naan ang gyapon tayo makita gyapon, pero half ra sa moon nga ato ang makita. The rest na dayon kay shadows na dayon. That's why natin makita din nga kanang sometimes we call kanang arc siya, kay tungod kay mura siya og kanang barko ang iyang forma. So, in the last stage, we have the waning crescent. So, it's the new moon nears, the moon shrinks back to a crescent that's less than half full. So, pagkahuman sa waning crescent, kay new moon naman sad, kay mag-rotate naman na sila tanan yun. So, mubalik na din siya o kagamay dayon ang kanalit area nga ma-occupy sa moon nga gikan sa sunlight nga sa sun. So, kay gamay na lang iyang makuha. So, the rest dayon kay pagka new moon, wala na din na yellow din nga part or illustration nga muna siya nga kanahayag siya gikan sa sun. And then, so let's enumerate the 8 phases of the moon. So, first, we have new moon. Second, the waxing crescent. Third, first quarter. Fourth, waxing gibbous. Fifth, full moon. Sixth, waning gibbous. Seventh, last quarter. And lastly, the waning crescent. So, before we end our lesson, I have some activities, which is match the item in column A with the items in column B. You must write it in the paper. So, I have some given papers to you, and then you can write your answers in the paper. So, aside from that, you will also have an assignment, which is kanang at the end of the lesson, you will have an assignment which is label the phases of the moon. So, kanang as naagyapon dira ang kanang katong phases gyapon sa moon nga kinahanglan ninyong labelan, and then pass it tomorrow. So, that's all for the end of our lesson, which is the phases of the moon or the changes in its appearance. And that would be all. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye, Mama.
Goodbye.